Well, good morning for everyone joining us here on the 13 News Now app. I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson, a certified broadcast meteorologist at 13 News Now, WVEC in Norfolk, Virginia, covering Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina, both states of North Carolina and Virginia. And on the weather desk, we get to venture out from those areas. So we talk about weather headlines from across the country and across the world. As we have a lot to talk about, we're going to get right into what the weather headlines are for today. We had an earthquake overseas that triggered a tsunami in portions of Asia. Talk about the country that was impacted the most. Plus, speaking of the ocean, the Pacific Ocean continues to churn out named storms for the early portions of the hurricane season. In the Atlantic, a completely different story. So we'll track the tropics after we talk about the big story from over the weekend of the earthquake overseas. Now, switching it up a little bit, we will talk more about the storms in the U.S. that brought severe weather to portions of the midsection of the country all the way into the northeast. It was a quiet weekend for us here in Hampton Roads, but quiet isn't always the best. When you don't have a lot of rainfall, of course, that only deepens the ongoing drought. So we'll get a look at the drought monitor, not only here in Virginia and North Carolina, but a look at the drought problems across the entire United States. And speaking of a local forecast, I'll talk more about the cooler weather we're experiencing and why we're experiencing it for the beginning of the work week. But the cool weather, or cooler weather, relatively, is not going to stay long. We have high heat on the horizon as temperatures soar near 100 degrees soon. And that's not the feels like temperature, that's the actual air temperature. So you tack on the higher humidity, it's going to feel a little hotter than that. So we'll talk a little about that and at the end of this show. But first, we're going to start overseas. A powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the Philippines overnight. This is a look at the damage to a school in the southern part of the country. We know at least 32 people have died and more than 200 others are injured in this situation. Most of the deaths were reported in the Sarangani province, where the quake triggered a landslide. The Philippines experience earthquakes frequently due to its location to the Pacific Ring of Fire. Now, we are 1 week into the Atlantic hurricane season, and the tropics are pretty quiet now, but activity will start picking up soon. Meteorologist Hunter Force explains when we typically see our first named storm in the Atlantic.
As we head into hurricane season, it's a good time to look at what a typical season in the Atlantic looks like. On average, the first named storm forms sometime in mid to late June. The first hurricane usually develops by early to mid-August, while the season's first major hurricane, a Category 3 or stronger, often arrives in late August or early September. But of course, every hurricane season writes its own story. Some years get off to a slow start while others hit the ground running. Take a look at the last two seasons, for example. In 2025, the Atlantic didn't see its first hurricane until August 15th, when Hurricane Erin formed. Compare that to 2024, when Beryl became a hurricane on June 29th and intensified into a major hurricane just 1 day later, nearly 2 months ahead of the historical average. The Atlantic hurricane season officially runs from June 1st all the way through November 30th, giving us about 6 months of potential tropical activity. While storms can develop at any point during the season, the vast majority of activity occurs between mid-August and mid-October. In fact, September 10th is considered the statistical peak of hurricane season, when conditions across the Atlantic are typically most favorable for development. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Hunter Forst.
Now, as we continue throughout the tropics, we are watching for, again, no tropical activity here expected over the next 7 days in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, not the same deal that we are talking about when it comes to the Pacific Ocean. I am tracking the newest named storm. This is Tropical Storm Boris. Boris has a very short lifespan now. As you see with the 8 a.m. advisory, Boris is barely a tropical storm. Sustained winds of 40 miles per hour, gusts up to 50 miles per hour. I am also also watching for the pressure around 1,002 millibars. Now, the pressure being so high, this is not a strong storm at all, but this will impact the southern portions of Mexico and likely bringing some heavier rainfall, gusty winds to the area. And I will look ahead now at the Hurricane Center to see what they're saying in terms of the impacts for this. So key messages from the Hurricane Center says that heavy rainfall associated with Tropical Storm Boris will impact the southern portions of Mexico. This rainfall may produce life-threatening flooding and mudslides, especially in the steep terrain. Tropical storm conditions are expected to reach the coast of Mexico within the tropical storm warning area later today. Now, as you see, Boris is going to be short-lived, as I mentioned earlier, only becoming a remnant low within the next about day or so as it interacts with land, causes some friction, tears up the storm, but also once a tropical system goes over land, it loses energy source of those warmer waters of the ocean. Now, again, in the Atlantic, not tracking any type of possible development quite yet. In the Pacific, there is one area close to Boris that we are tracking for potential development there. Now, we're going to check out these very huge waves that were caught surging toward a restaurant in Hawaii last week. This was the view that customers got on the Big Island from inside. I mean, look at those waves. The official wave observations were 4 to 6 feet, but some of them were likely higher. These waves were not caused by what used to be Amanda, which is now a post-tropical storm, but rather a strong weather system now south of New Zealand. Rough surf also brought down another home in the Outer Banks in North Carolina. But cleanup has mostly wrapped up. Check this out. A dozen people came out to pick up debris from the shoreline after the home on Ocean Drive collapsed a week ago. These side-by-side pictures show what the beach looked like shortly after the collapse and then what it looked like after the cleanup. That home is now one of more than 20 to collapse in that stretch on the beach over the last few years. This is just a look at this still standing barely over the Memorial Day weekend. Cape Hatteras National Seashore says the southern end of Buxton Village through the lifeguarded beach is back open, but visitors should still be cautious since more debris could wash ashore in the coming weeks. Next, parts of the U.S. are cleaning up after getting slammed by strong storms. We'll have a look at the damage. Plus, it's severe weather. We're to stick around through the work week. I'll have more details on that forecast. Welcome back, everybody. Parts of the country got hit by severe weather over the weekend, and Sydney Ferguson has a look at the aftermath in Kansas on Friday.
Heartbreaking.
This property west of Mulvane littered with damage from the wind and rain Thursday afternoon. James Anderson lives here and says it hit around 3 p.m.
Got the windows open like this. It blew the kitchen window up, so I was standing there holding out while the trees were just going crazy. But I was thinking it might be a tornado because it was wicked.
The homeowner, Beth Williams, was in Derby. She was only expecting rain, but got much more.
I wasn't ready. When I turned the corner, I got really emotional because it was very devastating.
Broken fences, 10 to 12 large trees broken and sliced, a cracked windshield from a tree falling on a car, and the roof of Williams' barn ripped back. Morgan Prather was inside the barn feeding her horse when it happened.
I remember seeing like nothing but just like rain and like I couldn't see anything except for the barn.
Anderson says all this only took about 3 minutes, yet Williams figures it'll run thousands of dollars to fix.
It's going to be a lot. That was one of the biggest things that drew my attention to this property was all the trees in the pasture, and it kind of looks like wilderness, but it seemed to cause a lot of problems when we have high winds.
Still, Williams says there was this. Both her dogs and all horses in the barn and pasture came out of the storm unscathed. Before she even got home, her friends and their tools were on the job.
I'm just amazed at all these people coming to help. It's very, very touching.
She says they prepare as much as they can each time weather like this hits, but you can only be so ready.
We just regroup and take care of what we can.
And now we are tracking the handful of other states dealing with flash flooding. This is a look at the conditions in Alabama yesterday. You can see the surge of water stranded some drivers near Huntsville. The flooding shut down several roads across the city. In Illinois, flash flooding also shut down parts of I-80 in Burrough County over the weekend. Part of Route 40 was also impacted by floodwaters. Now, has a severe weather threat passed here? Here's how things are shaping up for those regions this morning. A majority of the area, as you see, for the central parts of the country are dealing with a level 1 to a level 2 risk of severe weather, anywhere from Wichita, Kansas, up through Denver, underneath that slight risk or scattered risk for severe thunderstorms today. Now, in those areas, here's a look at that tornado outlook. If my graphics will cooperate with me today, there we go. The tornado outlook there in portions of northeastern Colorado, where Denver and just to the north and east of there, underneath that 5% outlook for tornadoes. Now on this, it doesn't show the significant risk of those EF2 or higher tornadoes, but it is in this orange area. So watching out for severe weather potential in those areas as well. Now, a majority of the U.S. is dealing with drought conditions, but it's gotten so bad in one state, the governor declared it a state of emergency. We'll hear from a climatologist after the break. Welcome back. Parts of the U.S. are dealing with drought conditions, and some cities in Colorado are already underneath water restrictions. But the situation is now so severe that the governor has declared it a state of emergency. Colton Chavez spoke with a climatologist about this situation.
This one is so unique.
A unique season with 93% of Colorado under moderate or severe drought.
In terms of comparing to the 2012 drought, we had the heat from that, but even hotter. And then in terms of the 2002 drought, we had the low snowpack, but even lower.
That's what pushed Democratic Governor Jared Polis to declare a statewide drought emergency. But the low snowpack is only part of the story. This water year is also the warmest on record.
Is the drought more about a lack of snow, or is the heat really the villain here, or is it a little bit of both?
I would say it's a little bit of both. So
Becky Bollinger, a former assistant state climatologist for over 7 years, she says Governor Polis' declaration gives Colorado tools it didn't have before, including the ability to ask Washington for help.
it really kind of opens up to say we're in a state where we might need some federal resources to help support us as we get through this.
At what point in this drought does it become like a drinking water crisis for Colorado communities?
I would say it is an extremely low likelihood that we would ever have to worry about drinking water.
But even in a crisis unlike any other,
We are actually a really smart state when it comes to water.
a unique state facing a uniquely challenging year.
And I feel like we have a lot larger amount of the population that knows that this is a finite resource.
Now, the newest drought monitor came out on Thursday, and here's a look at what conditions are looking like across the country and here in Hampton Roads. In Hampton Roads, we are still underneath the majority of the area in a severe or moderate drought. Moderate drought in that tan color, severe drought in the orange color. And for most of the south side and portions of the peninsula, for half of the middle peninsula, all of the eastern shore, and then into most of the northern neck, we are underneath a severe drought. The severe drought also encompasses the Albemarle Sound and portions of the Outer Banks. Moderate drought in those tan colors from the northern tier of northeastern North Carolina, portions of Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Suffolk, down south the Albemarle, and then for half of the middle peninsula and half of the peninsula. Now, for the northern neck, a sliver of it near Tappahannock is underneath that extreme drought, but most of the extreme drought is really located in central Virginia. So as I zoom out, you can see central Virginia to central North Carolina, extreme drought ongoing. Good news is we did have exceptional drought a little bit in North Carolina. That has been relieved, so that's good, but we have had such little rainfall. I could see the drought expanding into more severe, or even seeing this extreme drought expand a little bit more into North Carolina and central Virginia. Now, zooming in closer to places like around I-40, I-26, you can see that around the mountains, it's very dry. Taking it down south to the deep south, exceptional drought still ongoing in western, especially northwestern Florida, and then heading into extreme southern Georgia, where they've had quite a bit of rain there in Alabama and Mississippi, helping to relieve areas of those droughts. Now, into the central portions of the U.S., places like Kansas City and St. Louis in this nice slot, not seeing any type of drought conditions, but we are seeing some significant drought conditions in Oklahoma, Colorado, up into Nebraska, and as you head into Texas, Arizona, also Utah, and portions of New Mexico. Now, heading out west, you can see abnormally dry conditions anywhere from Reno down closer to Las Vegas, but the majority of the U.S. underneath a drought here, anywhere from the abnormally dry conditions to exceptional drought. Now, let's take a live look outside, and I'll have a look at what the work week outlook looks for Hampton Roads coming up in just 2 minutes. Welcome back. The work week here in Hampton Roads is starting off a little bit cooler, but soon temperatures will climb back into the 90s. And the cooler temperatures today are a part of a cold front. The higher heat returns as high pressure takes control, but we're entering a summertime pattern where we're also going to see higher humidity that will lead to afternoon shower and thunderstorm chances from the midweek to the weekend as well. Here's a look from the Thompson Creek Window Company sky view. You can see lots of people enjoying this really nice day at the ocean front from our beach camera, but it is windy. I can see someone's tent right there, like flapping in the wind. You can also see the white caps on the waves as we do have some gustier winds going on. Right now it's in the low 70s at the beach, in the upper 60s near 70, but you can see those northeast winds sustained anywhere from 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusts up to 25. Dew point temperatures, though, will start to lower as our drier air filters in behind this front. As you see, the front brought a couple of isolated showers to portions of northeastern North Carolina this morning. Those have fizzled out. Now we're talking dry conditions area-wide. A closer look from our satellite and radar shows this. As you see, the cloud cover now starting to pop up as the sun continues to get higher in the sky. That little area of some rain again fizzling out. As we progress through the rest of your Monday, temperatures around the coast will struggle to climb. We'll be in the upper 60s to low 70s through noon there. Inland, though, we will make it to the low 80s. Wind gusts will still be as high as about 25 miles an hour as we get into the early afternoon. Highs today around the coast will be in the 70s as we get inland 80s, but by 7 to 8 p.m. tonight, we're all dropping off to the mid 60s to the mid 70s. So definitely much cooler, and the winds will also make it feel a bit cooler today. Tomorrow, though, will be a beautiful day. We're talking upper 50s and low 60s to start the day around the coast. Inland will be in the mid 50s, but by the afternoon, near normal for an early to mid-June day as highs climb into the low to mid 80s. We'll have more cloud cover throughout the day on Tuesday as our humidity and our dew point temperatures and moisture start to pick up. But I do think that we should all just negate these rain chances here. That's just frivolous. I'm not expecting any rainfall for today, tomorrow, and through the majority of Wednesday. Now, speaking of what we're talking about for the next couple of days, I have chosen for Tuesday to be my pick of the week as temperatures will climb near normal. We'll have sunshine. It should be a really nice day, and the humidity should be relatively low compared to what the rest of the week looks like. We'll be in the comfortable range for dew point temperatures tomorrow, kind of teetering on that comfortable to humid range. We get into Wednesday and Thursday, we get right back to that humid to excessive range, and we're also pairing that with higher temperatures as we get closer to the end of the week as well. And you can even see through the weekend and through early next week, we are still expecting for some higher humidity in place. So here's a look at the forecast models temperature trend. I actually think they're underdoing it for the next few days, but tomorrow talking about low 80s by Wednesday. This forecast model says mid 80s and then staying in the 90s Thursday and Friday. And even next week, we should be just slightly above normal for most days. So the summertime pattern continues as we get into next week as well. Again, another look at the tropics. No tropical activity expected over the next 7 days here in the Atlantic Basin. Again, we are watching Tropical Storm Boris, and then we are also watching one area of disturbed weather close to Boris that has a high chance of becoming a tropical system over the next couple of days. Now here's a look at your 5 to 7 day forecast, and you'll see that temperatures will continue to climb from today through the end of the work week. Highs today will be in the mid 70s, tomorrow low 80s. Wednesday, I'm forecasting low 90s. Now I can't rule out a chance for an isolated shower or thunderstorm during the late afternoon into the evening time, but I'm not really forecasting those scattered showers or isolated showers and thunderstorms until Thursday into Friday. Now Thursday and Friday will be the hottest days of the next 7 as temperatures climb near 100 degrees. We'll cool off slightly into the weekend, but still staying well above normal in those low to mid 90s. Remember, you can always get the latest news, weather, and traffic on the go with the 13 News Now app. Scan the QR code on your screen to download the app for free. Again, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson, and I'll be here again tomorrow on the weather desk starting at 9 a.m. on the 13 News Now app. See you then.